Welcome to Auction version 4, the event management software tool from Auction Systems. In this video in the EventPay series, I will show you how to void a credit card charge in Card Connect if the transaction is still pending, or issue a refund onto a credit card for an overcharge if the transaction has been processed. Sometimes you discover that you inadvertently charged a guest too much because you missed recording the guest's cash or check into the auction project before processing the credit cards. Or you discovered an incorrect winning bid for a guest after processing the credit cards through auction. It would be nice to catch these errors before processing, which is why we suggest you carefully check that all winning bids and cash or check payments are correctly recorded in auction before processing the credit cards through auction. However, mistakes happen. If you find yourself in this situation, you can void a credit card charge before it completely goes through or issue a refund onto a credit card if the transaction has already been processed. Because your organization can log into Card Connect using a computer, you can void the transaction entirely before the debit has been applied to the guest credit card. Or if the debit has been applied to the guest credit card, you can issue a refund onto the credit card. When you process the transactions through auction, if the credit card charge has been approved, the card will be charged that amount and the payment is recorded in auction. However, just because the transaction is approved and the payment has been recorded in auction, it still takes a little time to actually debit each credit card. So during the time between processing through auction, i.e. uploading the charge to Card Connect, and when the guest credit card is actually debited, you have a little bit of time to void the transaction before it ever shows up on their credit card statement. Once you process the charges through auction, you will only have a couple of hours to void a credit card charge. Once the card shows as batched or processed in Card Connect, you can no longer void the transaction. During this short time when the card is only captured, you can log into Card Connect and void that specific transaction. If the guest was simply charged too much, since you can only void a transaction during this time period, you will have to void the entire transaction for that guest. You will not be able to void just a portion of the charge on that card. Then you must also log into your auction project and void the payment that was automatically recorded when you process through auction. The guest record in auction will then show the original balance due. Correct the guest's winning bid or enter the check amount if they gave you a check, and if they still have a balance due in auction, if the balance due is correct, go ahead and process that card for the correct balance due through auction, as I showed you in the earlier video in this series for processing credit cards. If you are inside the window of the time when you can still void a transaction, when the guest looks at their credit card statement, it will not show a charge from your organization. So voids are not recorded on their credit card statement. If the credit card has already been processed, you will no longer be able to void the transaction. You will need to issue a refund onto the guest credit card, but it turns out you will not be able to issue a refund until after the credit card has actually been debited and the funds have been deposited into your organization's bank account. This is because until you actually receive the funds, there is nothing to refund. It usually takes a day or two after uploading the charges from auction to Card Connect for the refund button to be enabled in Card Connect. So if you miss the void window, you will need to wait until the refund button does show up. Once the refund button shows up, you will have the ability to issue a refund onto a credit card for quite a long time, as long as your Card Connect merchant account is still active. If the entire charge was incorrect, you can refund the entire amount. But if it was simply an overcharge, you can refund a portion of the original charge. After issuing the refund, just like for a void, you will need to correct auction. But in this case, instead of voiding the original credit card payment, you will enter a refund for the guest. Because this is exactly what happened. You overcharged the guest and then you issued a refund. On the guest's credit card statement they will receive from their bank, they will see both the original charge and the refund you issued. So make sure their record in auction reflects this too, in case a month or two down the road you need to understand what happened. If the overcharge was because of an incorrect winning bid or because a check or cash was not entered in auction, be sure to correct or void the winning bid in their auction register or enter the cash or check to the guest register so that after the refund is recorded in their register, the remaining balance due in auction is 0. To refund or void a credit card, first you need to find out some information from auction. In your auction project, go to Data Entry and choose Names. Locate the name record for this guest and in their Name Entry panel, click View Credit Card Data. This little screen will pop up. Make sure you have the correct bid number, then see the type of card and the last 4 digits for this bidder. Write it down if you can't remember the card type and the last 4 digits. Then scroll down in their name entry form until you get to their register. You will see the payment and the amount. Make note of the amount of the payment that is associated with that credit card. By the way, the register is also the place where you will void a transaction, record a refund, edit a winning bid, etc. for this guest so that their register will be correct and the balance due correct if you need to process a payment again for this guest. So now that you know the type of card, the last 4 digits, and the amount that the card was originally charged, you can log into Card Connect to void the transaction or issue a refund. Log into Card Connect at www.cardconnect.com. You must have a username and password to log in. This is the username and password that was set up when you first electronically signed the merchant agreement for Card Connect. If you were not the person for your organization who originally signed the merchant agreement, you will need to contact that person and have them set you up as an authorized user. If you do not know who that person was, or they are no longer with your organization, please contact us at Auction Systems so we can either tell you the name of the person who signed the original contract or submit the needed information to Card Connect to set you up as having the ability to use this service. On the ribbon in Card Connect, click Reporting. You will see a list of all the recent transactions. If the transaction that you are refunding is from the previous month or week, you will need to change the date range from this pull-down. You want to sort the transactions by the last 4 digits by clicking this column heading. Once they are sorted, find the last 4 digits in this column for the transaction you're interested in and confirm that the type of card is correct and the amount is correct. Then click on this number. It's clickable. It's the transaction ID in the left-hand column for this row. But notice the status column. If the status is captured, you are still in the window where you can void. If the status is batched, it's too late to void the transaction and it's too early to refund. In a day or so, it will say processed and you can then issue the refund. When you click on that transaction number, you will see a screen like this. If this button says void, you will be able to click it and void the entire transaction. The status over here will change to void. If it says refund, then you'll click the button and a screen will pop up where you must type in the amount of the refund. Remember, it does not need to be the full amount of the original charge. It can just be portion, the overcharge portion. You will also have to type in a reason for the refund. The best reason would be overcharge, or more specifically, due to overcharge. Just type it in and submit. The refund will go directly onto their credit card. Thank you for joining us.